Officer Carter cracks his baton into Darius's ribs again, spatter freckling the asphalt. No cavalry's coming, kid, he sneers. Darius fumbles for his phone with shaking hands. My dad will end you, he whispers, dialing a number only he's ever been told to use. Before we dive into this outrageous case, tell me where you're tuning in from in the comments. If police accountability matters to you, hit like right now. Subscribe for more stories where justice punches back. Now, see how one desperate call flipped everything for a young man facing brutality. Darius Coleman drummed his fingers on the wheel of his new Audi, a 17th birthday gift from his father 2 weeks earlier. His GPS recalculated after a wrong turn into Brentwood, among Los Angeles's priciest enclaves. An honors student at Ridgecrest Academy, he rarely crossed into this neighborhood, until tonight. The low sun threw stretched shadows across the quiet street, while Darius squinted at signs, retracing his route. He didn't notice the cruiser ghost up behind him until red-blue reflected across his dash. His pulse kicked, a conditioned response his father had warned him about, drilled in countless talks. Stay cool, Darius breathed, easing to the curb, both hands at 12 o'clock as rehearsed. Sergeant Cole Reynolds stepped out first, hand resting on his holstered sidearm. His partner, Officer Evan Mercer, followed. Both approached with weapons unholstered, excessive for a routine stop. Window down, hands high. Darius complied, slow and deliberate. Evening, officers. Did I miss something? Reynolds leaned in, face inches away. Where'd you get this car, son? The bite on son made Darius flinch inward. It's mine, sir. A present from my father. Mercer's flashlight swept the leather interior, lingering on the upgraded console. 17-year-old black kid in a 60 grand Audi here, huh? Step out, slow. Indignation spiked, but Darius tamped it down. Registration and insurance are in the glove box. I can show. Reynolds yanked the door, dragging him out. Stolen Audi reported matching this. Assume the position. Palms flat, legs spread, he complied. Rough hands patted him down as Mercer rummaged through the cabin without consent. I haven't done anything, Darius said evenly. Please check the registration. Mercer tossed aside notebooks, charger cords, and SAT guide. Nothing, he called. Reynolds looked annoyed. Where you headed? Friend's house to study. Wrong turn, Darius answered carefully. My father works for the federal government, FBI, Darius added. If I could call him... Both officers laughed. Sure, and my cousin's the governor, Reynolds mocked. ID. Darius indicated his wallet. Reynolds snatched it. Ridgecrest Academy? Fancy. Across the street, an older white woman started recording, dog leash looped around her wrist. Officers, may I have your badge numbers? Darius asked, voice steady despite quickening fear. Reynolds' jaw tightened. He noticed the woman filming. Ma'am, move along. Police business. I'm on a public sidewalk, Mrs. Whitfield replied. Mercer, handle her, Reynolds ordered, cuffing Darius. Resisting. I haven't resisted, Darius said. His father's voice echoed from a lifetime of briefings. As a young black man, you'll be targeted sometimes. Stay calm, be respectful, know your rights. Always call me if things go sidewise. Mercer pressured Mrs. Whitfield. Interfering is a crime. Stop recording. After tense beats, she left, disappointment shadowing her face. With the witness gone, Reynolds got bolder. Let's talk stolen cars and respect. Darius watched both men reach to their shoulders and flip off body cameras. The street was empty now. Please, he said, treasuring composure. This is a misunderstanding. Reynolds chuckled without humor. That's what they all say, scholar boy. Reynolds shoved him toward the cruiser. Think you know your rights, prep school prince? The insult stung, but Darius stayed measured. The patrol number, their name tags, distinguishing features. He logged them all. Mrs. Whitfield had vanished. Into the back. Mercer's radio crackled. He ignored it, climbing behind the wheel. The patrol car rolled away, not toward a precinct, but into a bleak, semi-abandoned warehouse grid blocks from street cams. Night settled, headlights carving cones through graffiti-tagged walls. "Why here?" Darius asked, voice trembling despite resolve. Reynolds turned, cruel grin thin. "Honor roll kid can't tell when to hush around cops?" Mercer hauled Darius from the back seat. Gravel chewed at his shoes as handcuffs yanked. "Please, I'm a straight-A student. I volunteer." "My father is Special Agent Elijah Coleman, Los Angeles Field Office. You can verify." Reynolds backhanded him, splitting his lip. "Grammar and Daddy won't save you, kid." "I'm not above the law, sir. I just haven't broken any," Darius managed. Mercer looked uneasy but stayed silent. "Maybe we just process him," Mercer murmured. "The car's registered to an Elijah Coleman." Reynolds ignored him, eyes hard. "You privileged types are the worst. Handed everything and still acting owed." He drove a fist into Darius's stomach. Only cuffs and Mercer's grip kept him upright. "Nothing illegal? Driving a boosted ride isn't illegal? Resisting isn't illegal?" Darius wheezed. "It isn't stolen. I didn't resist." A distant security booth light clicked on. Calvin Brooks, the night guard, peered out, frowning. Reynolds paused, watching the guard step outside, then retreat to the booth. "We've got eyes," Mercer warned. "Wrap it up." "He won't meddle," Reynolds snarled, resuming. A methodical beating followed. Fists, boots, nightstick, aimed where marks would hide. Through flashes of pain, Darius memorized everything. Badge numbers, the cruiser's unit, jawline scars. During breathless lulls, Reynolds lectured. "You demand respect you didn't earn. Think Daddy's shield protects you." 15 years on the force had calcified his resentments. "By the time I'm done, we'll discover enough dope in your Audi to bury you." In the booth, Calvin raised his phone, snapping photos. Mercer stepped away to take a call. Alone, Reynolds intensified, voice low and vicious. "This is personal now. Your dreams end tonight." Pain blurred Darius's edges. Memories of civil rights footage, dogs, hoses, brave marchers flickered. He saw King, John Lewis, then his father in a windbreaker, all watching with solemn, urging eyes. Mercer returned, firmer. "Enough." "Since when do you call it?" Reynolds shot back. "Since this stopped being an arrest and turned into something else." Neither noticed Calvin circling for better angles. Mercer spotted him first. "We've got company." Calvin ducked back. "We'll lose our badges unless we manage this." As Reynolds wheeled toward the booth, Darius lay curled, body lit up with pain. "We follow the playbook," Reynolds decided. "Process him for resisting and assaulting us. Our word against his." Mercer glanced toward the booth. "And the photos? No dash cam? A warehouse, not a station? We've crossed a line." "We stick to the story," Reynolds insisted. "He got violent during transport. We subdued him." "Not with an FBI agent's kid," Mercer countered. "This isn't some unknown teenager." "He's lying," Reynolds snapped, uncertainty leaking in. While they argued, Darius spotted his phone, half hidden in gravel, screen miraculously intact. He wormed toward it, every inch sparking white pain. His father's 14th birthday talk replayed, emergency contact labeled emergency only. If you can't speak freely, say, "Red Eagle down." It triggers a protocol. With his bound hands, Darius activated the voice assistant. "Call emergency only," he whispered. The phone obeyed. Reynolds lunged too late. The line connected. "Red Eagle down," Darius gasped. Warehouse district. GPS active. Downtown, in a secure FBI conference room, Special Agent Elijah Coleman halted mid-briefing as his encrypted phone buzzed an unmistakable pattern. He patched it into the room's system, overriding the human trafficking case instantly. Trace active, Elijah announced, steel swallowing panic. Protocol Alpha. Likely abduction of Darius Coleman. Analysts locked on the phone's ping. Location acquired. Industrial warehouse grid, tech specialist Maya Tran said. Within seconds, they had coordinates. Back at the lot, Reynolds shook Darius. Who did you call? The screen only showed emergency only. Reynolds smashed the device against concrete. Too late, Darius exhaled. He already knows. Who? My father, Elijah Coleman, FBI, civil rights. Your assault auto-uploaded to a secure server. Fear shadowed Reynolds' face. He's bluffing. Mercer didn't look convinced. We need to verify. If that's true, we're already cooked. Reynolds scanned the darkness, mind racing. We move him now, somewhere else until we figure this out. Kidnapping a Fed's kid? Mercer balked. You're in it already, Reynolds hissed. You stood by while I questioned him. He won't be talking if we handle this right. A strange calm settled over Darius. The pain was savage, but knowing his father would come gave him a spine of ice. He had to survive. Meanwhile, the livestream host popped back. Comment 1 if these officers should be fired immediately. 2 if the whole department needs investigating. Like and subscribe if you refuse to normalize brutality. Victor, no, Elijah, moved through the field office with controlled urgency. Training smothered the terror coiling in his chest. Tactical team ready in 5. Maya, hold that GPS lock. Ortiz, pull rosters for LAPD units nearby. Williams, coordinate only with trusted liaisons. The room snapped into motion. Fear turned into procedure. The room burst into focused motion. Monitors populated with maps, license plate pings, and precinct rosters. Elijah stepped into his office for 10 seconds, stared at a photo of Darius at last spring's recital, then re-emerged, voice ironed flat. We treat this as priority 1, no missteps. Maya keyed into municipal camera networks, skimming feeds near the warehouse grid. One LAPD cruiser parked behind a derelict loading dock. Plates match Reynolds and Mercer. Ortiz paged through service records. Reynolds, 15 years, a dozen force complaints downgraded. Mercer, 3 years, cleanish. Elijah's jaw flexed. Pattern established. Body cams? Elijah asked. Maya's shoulders tensed. Both show a recording gap starting roughly 90 minutes ago. Last footage, traffic stop on a black Audi, matches Darius's car. Williams tried LAPD command again. Red tape sprouted like thorns. They're cooperative, sir. Glacially. Elijah. We don't have time for bureaucracy. Tactical? The team leader answered. Stack ready. 4-minute deploy. Less if we burn lights. Elijah nodded. Move on my call. He turned to Williams. Trusted LAPD only. No one in Western Division chain. Maya's phone pinged. Incoming from Internal Affairs, Detective Lisa Ramirez. Civilian footage submitted of excessive force against a black teen. The message hit everyone like a clean electric shock. Elijah forwarded it to the wall. Grainy, but unmistakable. Darius pinned against the Audi, Reynolds' stance aggressive. That corroboration changes posture, Elijah said. Williams, fold Ramirez into the loop, carefully. The team tightened straps and checked plates. Panic became an action list. In the warehouse lot, Reynolds' confidence frayed. We move him, he told Mercer. We stash him, figure a narrative. Mercer balked. That's kidnapping. You're already in, Reynolds hissed. Darius breathed through razors of pain, mind steadying on 3 survival rules. Buy time. Gather proof. Leave a trail his father could follow. The guard, Calvin Brooks, kept filming through murky glass. A radio on Mercer's belt burped dispatch chatter. Reynolds swore, scanning for risks. "We're done here." He hauled Darius, tossed him into the back seat, slammed the door. Tires crunched gravel. The cruiser ghosted away, leaving the Audi abandoned beneath a busted lamp. They didn't head downtown. They arrowed toward Western Division, a fortress Darius had only seen in news shots. His vision swam. Every bump in the road lit a fuse in his ribs. Reynolds watched the mirrors obsessively. Mercer drove tight-jawed, knuckles white on the wheel. "This is spiraling," he muttered. The private basement entrance yawned like a wound. Mercer badge tapped the lock. The gate thunked open. Fluorescents hummed inside, painting everything hospital pale. Reynolds dragged Darius from the car, hissed to Mercer, "If anyone asks, violent suspect, possibly intoxicated." Down the corridor, Captain Richard Sullivan waited, expression a practiced granite. "This better be necessary," Sullivan said, then paused at Darius's battered face. "Christ, Brian." Reynolds bulldozed past. "He attacked us. Claims his dad's FBI." Sullivan's gaze sharpened. "FBI?" He waved for the precinct physician. "Morris, basement holding, no paperwork." His tone held the off-book smoothness of someone who'd done this before. Dr. Alan Morris arrived, medical bag in hand, professional calm wobbling when he saw Darius's injuries. "He needs a hospital," Morris said. "Possible broken ribs, concussion, lacerations." Reynolds, "He's stable." Sullivan's voice turned oily. "Treat here. Keep him breathing." Morris hesitated, but duty and pressure pinned him. He started assessing gently. "What exactly happened?" Morris asked, checking pupils. Reynolds recited a rehearsed arc: erratic driving, non-compliance, sudden aggression, struggle during transport. Mercer wouldn't meet the doctor's eyes. Sullivan cut in, "Priority, stabilization." Then quietly to Reynolds, "If his father's bureau were standing on glass, did he call anyone?" He muttered some code. "Red Eagle down," "before I destroyed the phone," Reynolds said. Sullivan swore, recognition flickering. Military or federal trigger phrase. He started building the containment plan aloud. "We charge resisting, assaulting officers. We'll find felony narcotics in the car. Book him fast. Paper beats rumor." Mercer's jaw ticked, conflicted. Darius half heard everything through a fog. He tucked the details away, words becoming evidence. On his wrist, the ordinary watch, a gift from Dad, pressed reassuringly into bone. The hidden recorder waited like a coiled spring. He flexed a finger, a small, pained movement that clicked the watch into active recording. Upstairs, the bullpen buzzed. Ramirez, Internal Affairs, badged down toward basement holding. Sullivan intercepted her near the door, smile too tight. "Restricted. Unprocessed detainee. Off books," Ramirez replied, eyes cutting past him. "Is that a minor? Has the parent been notified?" Sullivan offered a soothing lie. "Paperwork is being finalized. Upstairs." "Let's review it then," Ramirez said, immovable. Sullivan gestured her away from the door, buying minutes. "Of course. Follow me." As they left, Sullivan threw Reynolds a look that said, "Fix this now." Reynolds pivoted. "Mercer, evidence locker, standard narcotics package." Mercer froze. "Planting is a felony." "So is assaulting us," Reynolds snapped. "Alone with Morris," Darius whispered. "They're going to kill me, aren't they?" Morris's hands didn't stop moving. Quietly, "Not if I can help it." He checked the hallway, then leaned closer. "Is your father really FBI?" Darius nodded. Conflict carved itself across the doctor's face. "I have a sister at the bureau." Footsteps. Reynolds returned. breath clipped. Cars handled, he said. Dogs will find what they need. Darius shut his eyes and let the watch drink in every incriminating syllable. Sullivan reappeared, irritation rising. Ramirez demanded body cam footage, he said. We'll cite technical malfunction, but there's a civilian video. His stare accused Reynolds. One shaky phone clip won't beat two sworn reports, Reynolds replied. Sullivan started acceleration. Then we move him now, county tonight. He looked at Morris. He can survive transport. Morris pushed back, timid steel. He's not stable. Sullivan dismissed it with a flick. He'll live, that's sufficient. Darius's stomach iced over. Whispered fragments reached him. Connections in county. Make it look like gang initiation. Another statistic. The plan clicked together like a nightmare puzzle. When Morris leaned in, he slipped a thumb-sized transmitter into Darius's palm. Bathroom. Medical need, Morris said aloud. Sullivan rolled his eyes but waved them toward the attached restroom. Inside, Darius pressed the transmitter. A tiny buzz confirmed a broadcast to bureau bands. He double-tapped the watch, pushing a secondary distress ping. He stared at his bruised reflection, split lip, swelling eye, and inhaled. Survive the next 10 minutes. That was the entire universe. 10 minutes, then perhaps another 10. Back in the room, Reynolds waved a transport order. Field trip time, kid. Darius lifted his chin. My father will find me. Reynolds laughed, the sound edgeless now. Far away, a faint siren swelled. Sullivan's head snapped toward the ceiling. Ignore it, he said, convincing no one. Move him, now! The livestream host reappeared elsewhere on millions of phones. The moment our young man placed that emergency call, she said, machinery for justice kicked awake. Comment where you're watching from. Like and subscribe to keep the pressure up. The narrative pressed forward, oxygen to a growing fire outside the precinct. 3 blocks away, a joint command post snapped into formation. Screens showed precinct schematics. Basement bay west, stairwell east, fed by city records. Williams held a tablet of intercepted feeds. Basement camera frames showing Darius being half dragged, half carried. Alive, injured, Williams said. Doctor on site, Alan Morris. Elijah's eyes hardened. We move correctly. Assistant Director James Foster arrived, presence quiet and heavy. This isn't only your son, he told Elijah aside. Western Division's got smoke all year. Today gives us fire. Elijah nodded. 27 shady incidents at least. Disproportionate force, tampering, intimidation. Darius's case is the keystone. His voice didn't waver. Warrants? Elijah asked. Maya lifted a tablet. Emergency federal warrant. Immediate surrender of Marcus. Correction. Darius. Coleman for unlawful detention, civil rights violations. Secondary warrants for digital records, body cams, surveillance, dispatch logs, personal communications last 24 hours. Elijah exhaled once. Ramirez? Williams. In position, documenting anomalies, resisting pressure. A watch alert pinged Elijah's wrist. Encrypted audio from Darius's device. Sullivan's voice. Plant the standard package. Evidence locker. Make it look convincing. Reynolds. Dogs will find the stash. Foster listened, expression grave. Conspiracy to tamper, possibly attempted murder. Elijah's gaze moved to the tactical leader. On your mark, we go. Another ping. Morris's emergency transmitter triangulated. Basement holding, Maya said. Signal fresh. Rodriguez, their LAPD liaison, whispered, Sullivan's calling in off-duty loyalists claiming overtime. Foster's tone cooled. Then we isolate the crime scene. Elijah's voice carried across headsets. All teams, Prepare to breach on my command. Everything recorded. By the book. Inside the basement, Morris taped gauze, whispering to Darius, "You'll feel a sting." Reynolds slapped cuffs tighter. "He's fine." Sullivan checked his watch. Transport van inbound. Mercer flicked a glance at Darius, then swallowed. "Captain, if his dad's FBI, this explodes." "Then we control the blast," Sullivan replied, brittle. Upstairs, Ramirez pressed a sergeant for paperwork that didn't exist. "Booking number?" she asked. "Chain of custody for evidence?" The sergeant stumbled. Ramirez's pen scratched notes. "Thank you." She texted Elijah. "No booking. Off-books medical, camera gaps, captain obstructing." Elijah responded, "Hold position. Breach imminent. Secure your safety first." Back at the bay, Mercer rolled the gurney forward. Darius's world pulsed white. He fought to keep eyes open, just enough to keep recording. Footsteps clustered at the garage door. A gate motor groaned, then stuttered. The hum of approaching engines pressed closer, heavy, coordinated, not the jangled rhythm of chaos. Elijah's voice cut the comms. "Federal agents executing lawful warrants. Basement team, West Bay. Secondary team, East Stairwell. Williams, comms jam. Selective. Do not interfere with 911. Record everything." The battering tool bit the bay door. Metal shrieked. Sullivan's face blanched as he calculated, then reached for his phone anyway. The door buckled. FBI swept in. Clear, clear, clear. Voices flat with precision. Sullivan raised both hands halfway, face arranged into injured professionalism. "Captain Richard Sullivan," Williams announced. "You're being detained pending investigation into federal civil rights violations." "This is a misunderstanding," Sullivan began. Body cams, real ones, captured Reynolds' sudden pallor. Elijah moved with controlled economy, eyes landing on his son. For a fraction of a second, the agent fell away, and the father remained, stricken. Then the agent returned, crisp as a folded blade. "Medical," he ordered. Morris lifted his hands. "Dr. Alan Morris. He needs a trauma unit." "Noted," Elijah said. Agents separated Reynolds and Mercer, hands to the wall, weapon checks, gloves snapped. "You're making a mistake," Reynolds barked, voice veering toward Brittle. "He attacked us." An agent read the warrants evenly. Another bagged Reynolds' phone. A third photographed the room. Scuffs, blood droplets, cuff abrasions on Darius's wrists. Nothing accidental. Morris rattled off vitals to the arriving EMTs. Likely cracked ribs, concussion symptoms, contusions, stabilized cervical spine. Darius blinked once, found Elijah's silhouette, and almost broke. Elijah's voice stayed steady, for his son's sake. "I'm here." He didn't add the things that wanted out. "I'm sorry. I should have been sooner." Upstairs, Ramirez confronted the paper void. The desk sergeant's bluff failed under federal light. "You never booked him," she said. "You sealed camera access." Agents ghosted past her, compartmentalizing networks, mirroring drives, seizing dispatch terminals under warrant. "We'll log and chain everything," she told Elijah over the secure line. "No gaps." Back in the bay, Elijah faced Sullivan. "Where are the body cam buffers?" Sullivan tried a shrug. "Malfunction." "Both units, same time," Elijah replied. "Convenient," Williams signaled. "We've intercepted precinct camera feeds. Basement gaps correlate precisely with Darius's arrival." Sullivan's answer curdled. "Technical. You people never understand street realities." "We understand civil rights," Elijah said calmly. "We understand patterns." Photos from Calvin Brooks hit Maya's feed mid-sentence, geo-tagged near the warehouse, angles catching Reynolds mid-swing. "We have a civilian witness with images," Maya announced over comms. "Facial recognition matches night guard Calvin Brooks. Elijah filed it. Locate, secure statement, protect. Reynolds spat. One blurry picture. And audio, Elijah added. He raised his wrist. A clipped recording played Reynolds' voice. Standard package, glove box, under the spare. The silence afterward was iron. Reynolds' bluster drained. Mercer closed his eyes, breath shaking. I told you, he murmured, barely audible. I told you. Officer Mercer, Elijah said, tone even, you can cooperate now or later. Later is worse. Agents boxed the bay. EMTs lifted Darius gently. He inhaled a wet, careful breath. Elijah stepped back, letting professionals work, memorizing every mark on his boy's face, and then forcing himself to look away and lead. Rodriguez reported in Elijah's ear, off-duty loyalists arriving, claiming to assist. Foster, establish perimeter. Admit no one not cleared by our liaison list. Tactical swung to the stairwell, creating a hinge of control. Sullivan tried to step toward the doorway. Two agents redirected him with polite, unyielding palms. Captain Sullivan, Williams said, we have warrants for your communications and personal device. Sullivan's mouth flattened. He handed over his phone. Another agent read him his rights. Sullivan's gaze slid to Reynolds. An unspoken calculus, betrayal deferred for later. Elijah turned to Maya. Pull Reynolds' calls from earlier tonight. Friends, family. Flagged, Maya said. There's a call to a Richard Sullivan, captain earlier, then several short calls to a number tied to a retired lieutenant associated with previous internal affairs complaints. Foster's attention sharpened. Conspiracy web. Good. He looked to Elijah. Your son goes straight to a hospital with federal escort. Tires hissed outside. An LAPD prisoner transport van nosing in, lights off. The bay had already become federal territory. Agents stepped forward, hands raised, clear commands. The driver froze, scanning badges. This entrance is closed under federal warrant, Williams said. Turn around. The van eased back, slow and chastened, before retreating. Down the corridor, a detective in plainclothes peered, then turned away. Ramirez intercepted him. Where are you going? Home, he said. Smart, Ramirez replied and logged his name. She moved again, quiet, relentless, assembling a lattice of timestamps and contradictions, each piece another nail in the coffin of Western Division's secrets. Agents led Reynolds and Mercer to separate rooms. Counsel? Williams offered. Mercer's composure began to crumble. I didn't hit the kid, he said. Not like Reynolds. But you stood by, Williams replied, and you fetched a standard package, correct? Mercer's throat worked. Captain Sullivan told us to. I panicked. In the main space, Sullivan tried the old man tone. Agent Coleman, you're emotional. Understandable. This needs internal handling. Elijah didn't blink. This needs constitutional handling. Two agents presented an itemized seizure list. Sullivan scanned it. Anger flared, then receded behind his mask. You'll ruin good officers over one mistake. Not one, Elijah said. 27 suspicious incidents this year alone linked to this precinct. Today isn't an outlier, it's a reveal. Sullivan's face twitched. The EMTs rolled Darius past, collar stabilized. Elijah walked alongside, not touching, not yet. Hospital route secured, Maya reported. Traffic lights pre-cleared. Federal escort ready. Dr. Morris, Elijah said, ride with him. Morris nodded. Guilty resolve etched on his face. I won't falsify anything. Elijah held his gaze. Do your job, truthfully. The gurney loaded. As the ambulance bay door lifted, night air spilled in, thick with sirens and the first edges of a gathering crowd. Outside, phones were already up. The live stream host's updates had seeded the city with awareness. Chants began in pockets, small, ragged, genuine. Do your job, Elijah told himself. He turned back into the building, where Foster waited with a measured look that said both. I've got you, and we're not done. Chain of custody on the Audi, Elijah said. Rodriguez. On site at the warehouse lot. We've flagged the car, preserving the scene. No one touches it. Maya added, We'll bring in K9, neutral, from outside the city, logged before any access. If there's a standard package, we'll document its fingerprints. Back in holding, Williams set down an evidence tray, the shattered phone pieces from the warehouse, bagged gravel, a nightstick with a fleck that might be blood. Scene-to-scene continuity, she said. Sullivan stared like someone watching a chessboard tilt. You're criminalizing split-second decisions, he muttered. No, Williams said. We're documenting crime. A junior officer edged close to Sullivan. Captain, Internal Affairs is asking about camera gaps. Sullivan answered too fast. Server update. Ramirez, behind them, wrote the phrase down, unblinking. She caught Elijah's eye and tapped her watch twice. I'm with you. He gave the smallest nod. Careful, we'll shield you. In an interview room, Mercer's words came haltingly. He was already angry when we lit him up. The kid asked for badge numbers. That set Reynolds off. Williams didn't change expression. Who suggested turning off the body cams? Mercer swallowed. Reynolds reached first. I followed. The pen scratched again. Followed. In another interview room, Reynolds smirked, then didn't. I did my job. By planting narcotics? The agent asked. Reynolds' jaw twitched. I never said. The agent pressed play. Standard package, glove, under the spare. Reynolds stared at the table. You're dead without us out there, he said, suddenly weary and venomous. We're alive with a lawful policing, the agent replied. Reynolds glared. You people don't live where the calls come from. The agent didn't flinch. Neither does a teenager you abducted. Silence sat heavily. Somewhere down the hall, a copier clacked, federal paper lanes sealing what voices had already confessed. The ambulance carved toward County General, escorted by 2 bureau SUVs. In the back, Morris spoke to Darius in steady, practical tones. Stay awake if you can. I know it hurts. You did everything right. Darius rasped, watch recorded. Morris blinked. Good. That might save you, and a lot more people. At the warehouse lot, Calvin Brooks peered from his booth as unmarked cars arrived. An agent knocked politely. Mr. Brooks, we need your statement. We believe you did the right thing. Calvin nodded, relief loosening his shoulders. I wasn't going to let it happen unseen. He opened his phone gallery, hands shaking. Photos rolled by, the cruiser, Reynolds' raised arm, Mercer turning away, Darius crumpling. I took some from the side path too, Calvin said. Safer line of sight. The agent thanked him. We'll protect your identity while we can. There may be pressure. Calvin snorted softly. Pressure's how diamonds form. Social media flooded. Geotagged images, threads naming patterns, old complaints resurfacing with fresh bile. The live stream presenter stitched receipts, adding, Call your representatives, demand audits. A narrative metastasized into civic action. Elijah ignored the buzz, eyes on task. Evidence, statements, links, timelines. Justice isn't a feeling. It's a ledger. Ramirez pinged a secure note. Dr. Alan Morris, pressured historically to shade reports. Daughter had a possession case vanish last year. Elijah logged it. Leverage explained behavior. Behavior still required accounting. We'll recommend protection, he told Williams, and accountability. Two truths could sit together without absolving harm. Captain Sullivan's uncle? Maya asked. Noted as a retired deputy chief with a history of quashed complaints, Sullivan relied on that shadow the way some people rely on weather. Foster set his hands on his hips. We'll keep the circle tight. The moment this leaks, the machine will start grinding. Elijah breathed once. Decades of cases, families, funerals sat behind his eyes. Today was different and not different. He pictured teaching Darius to keep his hands visible, to narrate movements, to be unfailingly polite to men who might decide impunity was a right instead of a temptation they refused. Agent Coleman, Foster said softer. We've got a hospital team waiting. Go. Elijah hesitated, then nodded. Williams, you have the precinct. Maya, ride herd on digital. Rodriguez, stay with Ramirez. Keep her safe. He walked toward daylight, the corridor lengthening like a tunnel, then broke into night where sirens braided the air. The ambulance doors opened to harsh lamps. Nurses met the gurney, efficient as a drill team. 17-year-old male, blunt force trauma, suspected rib fractures, concussion signs, lip laceration, Morris reported. The ER attending took over. Elijah stood back, fingers numb, the old mantra whispering, I am calm. I am useful. A nurse touched his sleeve. You can stand here, sir. He nodded thanks, held himself like a tripod. On monitors, lines sketched Darius's stubborn heartbeat. Morris reappeared, voice steadying. He's stable enough for scans. Elijah's throat flexed. Thank you, Morris swallowed. I should have done more. You did something, Elijah said. Back at Western Division, Ramirez watched two officers whisper near a stairwell. She stepped into view. The conversation died. If you have concerns, internal affairs can take them, she said. One officer looked away. The other met her eyes. We've all seen things. Write them, Ramirez replied. Today's different. At the Audi, K-9 handlers from a neighboring county started their sweep, cameras rolling, gloves on, witnesses present. A small bundle nestled where Reynolds predicted, glove box, and under the spare. The handler didn't comment. The evidence tech's voice was clinical. Package appears standardized. Latents will tell a story. The livestream host narrated the pivot. Independent K-9 teams, recorded chain of custody. This is how you do it. She urged viewers to stay with verified updates, to avoid naming unconfirmed individuals. For once, the swelling audience heeded. A city accustomed to cynicism felt the ground tilt toward consequence. Elijah called his ex-wife, breath clipped. I'm at county. He's stable, going for imaging. Silence, then a gasp that sounded like something torn. I'm coming. Drive carefully, he said. We'll have an escort meet you. He closed his eyes against a wave. He was an agent. He was a father. In an interview room, Sullivan calibrated a narrative that sounded like old furniture being dragged. We're under siege out there, he said. Split-second calls. The agent across from him was uninfected by the romance of excuses. You conspired to plant evidence, Captain. He slid a transcript across. Sullivan's face clicked shut. Lawyer, Sullivan said. Of course, the agent replied, standing. In the hallway, Williams sent a quiet text to Ramirez. He's lawyering up, Ramirez answered. 2 uniforms ready to talk if guaranteed protection. Williams. Granted. A fragile bridge extended inside a building designed to conceal more than it revealed. Maya flagged fresh metadata. A cluster of texts from Reynolds to a number tagged to Captain Sullivan. Containment. Basement. IA problem. Package done. Time stamped within the last hour. Foster nodded once. The web tightens. He dictated a brief to DOJ. Probable cause for broader pattern and practice review emerging. Darius emerged from CT drowsy, eyes flickering. The attending summarized: 2 cracked ribs, soft tissue bruising, concussion, no internal bleeding. We'll admit him, monitor neurosigns, manage pain carefully. Elijah managed a tight thank you. He stepped to the bed. Darius studied him through fog. "You came," he murmured. Elijah's smile barely held. "Always," Elijah said. He didn't touch the bandage or the IV line. He watched the breath move under hurt bones. "We have your recordings," he said, voice private but firm. "They'll matter." Darius exhaled. "Good." More silence, comfortable in its necessity, settled between them, the kind earned only by surviving together. Outside the room, a nurse lowered her voice. "There are people in the waiting area, media, maybe agitators." Williams answered on comms. "We'll establish a discreet perimeter." Ramirez added, "I've got allies at the hospital. They'll keep eyes on door logs." Foster, "We protect the victim from spectacle. Full stop." Calvin finished his statement, palms still damp. The agent handed him a card. "We'll check in. If anyone contacts you, report it." Calvin nodded. "You think they'll come after me?" "They might," the agent said honestly, "but we'll be there first." Calvin looked at his phone, at proof, and straightened. Back at the precinct, a small knot of off-duty officers arrived to discover federal lines and controlled corridors. One tried bluster. "Jurisdiction." Williams didn't blink. "Federal warrants, ongoing civil rights investigation, crime scene preservation. Step back." The officer stared at the seal on her jacket, did the math, and stepped back. The live stream host adopted a careful tone. "Names will come from official filings. What matters now? Patterns, proof, accountability." Comments scrolled. Anger, grief, wary hope. She closed with, "Take care of each other tonight." The feed didn't stop the world, but it braided individual attention into something resembling a rope. Elijah finally sat, back straight despite everything. He texted Maya, "Thank you." She replied with a single dot, their shorthand for "we keep going." Rodriguez sent a selfie from the Audi scene, thumb up, jaw set. Small signals pulsed through the network, quiet as heartbeats, just as necessary. Ramirez filed preliminary IA notices. Evidence secured under federal warrant, temporary control ceded to DOJ, internal barriers documented. She saved 1 copy on her private drive, 1 in the bureau share, 1 in a sealed envelope she dropped with a trusted clerk. "Insurance," she told herself. "For daylight." Mercer signed a statement, hand stuttering. "I didn't swing," he repeated, as if absolution could be incanted. "But you didn't stop it," the agent said. "And you fetched the package." Tears stung Mercer's eyes. Shame and self-preservation warred like weather systems. "I'll testify," he whispered, "against Reynolds, against Sullivan." "Then start by telling us who else knew," the agent said. Names came, hesitant, then steadier. The pen moved. Down the hall, Reynolds stared into nothing, lip curled. He had the look of a man newly acquainted with his own reflection. It wasn't flattering. A camera-red dot watched without sympathy. Foster signed a short directive to DOJ's Civil Rights Division. Request authorization to initiate a pattern or practice investigation into Western Division and adjacent commands. "We'll still need the U.S. Attorney aligned," he told Elijah. "They will be," Elijah answered, and for the first time since the call, belief sounded like certainty. Morris sat on a bench outside imaging, hands clasped. Elijah approached him. "You helped," he said. Morris swallowed. "I helped too late." "You helped now," Elijah replied. "Your report will be honest." Morris nodded. "It will, and I'll testify about the pressure." He exhaled. "My daughter deserves better than my silence." The ER's fluorescent buzz softened to a tolerable hum. Darius slept, the first real sleep since headlights exploded his rearview mirror. Elijah stood watch. Outside, a city adjusted to new information. Inside, a father adjusted to a still beating truth. There would be court dates. There would be healing. Back at Western Division, Ramirez stepped out into cooler air. A distant chant drifted, uncertain but growing. She looked at the building as if seeing its bones. Secrets don't rot. They calcify. Tonight, some were pried loose. She texted Elijah, "I'm going home." He typed back, "We'll protect you." Maya closed her last capture and leaned back. She'd mapped calls, archived footage, mirrored devices. She logged a precise checklist and sent it to Williams. Gaps noted, data quarantined, tamper flags armed. She allowed exactly one deep breath, then opened a new document titled Recommendations for Structural Reform, Western Division. Elijah returned to Darius's bedside as monitors ticked their quiet metronome. He pressed his palm flat to the rail, not touching the bruised arm inches away. "We're not done," he said to himself, to the room, to the work. "But we started." The words felt like a door finally unlocking. Down the corridor, radios murmured status, not drama. The tactical team packed deliberately. Evidence techs zipped cases with the care of tailors. Outside, sirens unspooled into distance. In the bed, Darius breathed. Hurt, present, alive. Elijah stood, unblinking, an agent and a father in the same skin, ready for morning. Elijah drew a steadying breath. Execute. Everything snapped into motion. Bureau SUVs locked every egress while tactical stacks sealed the perimeter. Elijah led the primary entry through the front doors, warrants high. The desk sergeant froze as 20 armored agents flooded the lobby. "Federal operation," Elijah announced, voice carrying. "All personnel stand down and remain at posts. Interference with lawful federal warrants is a felony." Behind him, teams fanned out to secure evidence lockers, servers, and radios. Captain Richard Sullivan burst from his office, color rising. "What is this?" "LAPD house, agent. You don't have jurisdiction." Elijah closed the space. Warrant displayed. "Captain Sullivan, we hold federal authority to recover Darius Coleman, unlawfully detained in your facility, and to seize records tied to officers Cole Reynolds and Evan Mercer, plus your communications for the last 24 hours. Sullivan's face blanched, bluster lingering like smoke. "No unauthorized detainees," he lied. Elijah's answer was surgical. "Then you won't object to our inspecting your basement. You're off the books holding." Before Sullivan replied, Detective Lisa Ramirez stepped from the stairwell, breath clipped. "Agent Coleman, they're moving him now. Transport prepping in the basement bay." Sullivan's eyes confirmed everything. Elijah turned. "Basement, lock it down. No one leaves." Agents sprinted for the stairs. Sullivan tried to bar Elijah's path, hissing, "Career-ending mistake. I have friends. City Hall, Sacramento." Elijah cut past. "Save it for counsel." Half the team secured Sullivan. The rest vacuum-sealed evidence with relentless precision. On the stairs, they met Officer Evan Mercer, panic wide in his eyes. "FBI, hands visible," Elijah ordered. Mercer complied immediately. "Don't shoot, I followed orders." "Where is Darius?" Elijah demanded. Mercer pointed toward the vehicle bay. "Reynolds, loading him now." "He's coordinating with Sullivan to—" Elijah didn't wait to hear. He hit the bay door with his point element. Inside, Reynolds muscled Darius toward a transport van. Seeing agents, Reynolds yanked a pistol and dragged the battered teen against his chest like a shield. "Back off. Lawful transport. Multiple charges." Through swelling and blood, Darius met Elijah's eyes, relief flashing. "Officer Cole Reynolds," Elijah called, tone glacial. I'm Special Agent Elijah Coleman. The young man you're holding is my son. You're committing federal crimes, kidnapping, assault, civil rights violations, and now human shield tactics against federal officers. Recognition cracked Reynolds' mask. This your father? The Fed, he muttered, uncertainty threading. Told you, Darius rasped. Red Eagle. Reynolds' gaze ricocheted, hunting exits that didn't exist. It's not what it looks like. Kid resisted, attacked. Protocol. Elijah's voice cut clean. We have recordings. Your assault, your planning with Sullivan to plant narcotics, your county jail murder talk. It's finished, Reynolds. For a heartbeat, surrender hovered. Then his jaw set. The pistol pressed to Darius's temple. Clear a path or I shoot. Now. The stack froze. Angles good, shot impossible. Elijah holstered, stepped forward, palms up. Think. Every route ends in cuffs or a coroner. Hurt him, you're staring at death row. The certainty in Elijah's tone snagged something in Reynolds. That hinge of hesitation was enough. Darius dropped his weight hard, slipping the line of fire exactly as his father had drilled. 2 precise cracks, one shoulder, one leg, spun Reynolds down. Agents flooded the gap. Elijah hauled his son clear. For a single breath, he let the father win, holding Darius tight before training returned. Medics, he called, easing his son to the waiting stretcher. I've got you, he whispered. You're safe. Darius managed a crooked smile. Used everything you taught me. The med team triaged. Elijah pivoted back. Reynolds howled conspiracy while agents bound him to a gurney. Elijah approached, voice flat. Cole Reynolds, you're under arrest for deprivation of rights under color of law, aggravated assault, kidnapping, evidence fabrication, and conspiracy to commit murder. You have the right to remain silent. The Miranda cadence finally pierced bravado. You don't understand, Reynolds spat, desperation naked. This is how control works. Your kid cruised where he didn't belong, acting like he owned it. Elijah finished the warning, then leaned close. He took a wrong turn to study calculus. For that, you chose death. That ends here, and everywhere like here. Agents rolled Reynolds away. Elijah returned to the stretcher. The warehouse guard, Calvin Brooks, and an older woman at the traffic stop recorded everything. Darius murmured. Elijah squeezed his hand. We have it all. Pride edged the line of his voice. You did everything right. Father and agent aligned like sightlines. The Bureau kept harvesting the precinct. Servers imaged, lockers cataloged, hard drives mirrored, comms seized. Elijah walked beside the ambulance. He wanted to climb in and never leave, but command pressed like armor. I'm right behind you, he told Darius as doors closed. Then, this is not over. It pulsed truth. A creator voiceover elsewhere. 1 for working the courts like Agent Coleman. 2 if you believe direct action. Like if accountability matters. Subscribe for more truth-to-power stories. The chorus outside swelled, but inside, files, timestamps, and custody logs, not rhetoric, would cut the rot. Elijah turned back into fluorescent war. The synchronized raids widened. Homes, lockers, side businesses, storage units, largest corruption sweep in city memory. Back at command, Special Agent Williams updated. 16 detained, 7 arrested on direct criminal counts, Sullivan secured, en route to federal holding, personnel files, slush note binders, and safe contents seized. Tech lead Maya Tran added, private network cracked. Encrypted personal apps, overt talk on targeting, plants, cover-ups, Maya said, jaw taut. Elijah's phone buzzed. Hospital ping. Darius stable, contusions, 2 cracked ribs, mild concussion. No life-threatening injuries. He allowed one exhale, then snapped forward. A junior agent barreled in. Sir, evidence room problem. Sullivan triggered a protocol before we pinned him. Elijah moved. Maya, lock every digital artery. Williams, freeze that room. Nobody touches a thing until forensics clears. In every corner, hidden rot surfaced. Covert interview cameras, black site holding alcoves, vanished evidence tags resurrected by serial number echoes. 15 years of quiet architecture laid bare under hard federal light. In basement storage, a false wall cracked open, files on dozens who complained, each followed by harassment blueprints, traffic stops, code enforcement randoms, employers nudged. Ramirez approached, eyes dark. Sullivan called Commissioner Davis before you wrapped him. Davis has City Hall and Sacramento threads. Elijah didn't blink. Call them all. Federal top cover stands. He studied Ramirez. You've chased this a while with risk. She nodded. 3 years. They killed my partner. Made it look like gang crossfire. I knew otherwise. Elijah filed the case number. Your testimony matters. We'll protect you. The raids kept grinding, exact, methodical, tightening a net Sullivan had once believed impossible. Updates kept landing. Guns and dope from officers' homes, inexplicable cash in safe deposit boxes, burner clouds dripping messages. At County General, Dr. Alan Morris checked on Darius, handing agents sealed duplicate charts documenting off-books injuries he'd archived in quiet defiance. I kept everything, he said, palms open, for this day. Back at Precinct Command, Elijah conferred with DOJ when Maya's alert sliced the air. Reynolds escaped custody. Blood iced. How? Transport ambushed. Black SUV, 2 agents down, status unknown. Extraction was crisp, planned. Elijah's voice hardened. All teams, elevate. Assume he targets hospital. Priority, secure my son. The network tensed like cable. Footage replayed. Box-in maneuver, smoke, overlapping fields of fire. Professional. This wasn't freelance, Elijah said. Williams nodded. Sullivan's lattice reaches further, maybe beyond LAPD, Elijah decided. I'm heading to county. Williams, you have precinct. Maya, burn Reynolds' circles. Associates, finances, properties. I want an address yesterday. The hospital was already sandbagged. 4 bureau agents on Darius's door, more on the floor. Elijah entered. Darius was awake, bandaged, steady-eyed. They said Reynolds slipped custody. Elijah took his hand. He won't touch you here. Darius shook his head. I'm not scared for me. He's radicalized and cornered. The assessment landed like fact. Elijah's phone vibrated. Maya's face recognition ping. Westwood parking garage. Property owned by a shell tied to Sullivan's brother-in-law. 10 minutes from us, Elijah calculated aloud. He pivoted to the hallway team. No entry without level 5 verification. I'm suiting up with the element. Be careful, Darius said. He knew you by name before tonight. Elijah logged it. Noted. In the lot, the element armored up. Tablet schematics glowed. Assume friends, traps, Elijah briefed, breaching with blast suppression protocols, floor by floor. Another alert hit, grainy still of scrubs, mask, Reynolds at the rear entrance. He's here, Elijah said, stomach dropping. Lock down the building. Security sealed doors. Elevators froze. Elijah sprinted back. At Darius's room, agents stood ready, unaware of the intruder. Reynolds may be inside, Elijah warned. Full alert. Inside, Darius sat upright, listening to the hall turn taut as wire. We're relocating you internally, Elijah told him. Stay with me. Lights stuttered and died. Red emergency glow bled into corridors. He cut mains, riding back up, Elijah said. During that switchover, Cameras hiccuped, locks blinked. In that eyelash of vulnerability, Reynolds pressed chaos's advantage, stacking distractions like cordwood. A fire alarm blasted downstairs, splitting security. "Noise play," Elijah said. "We hold this corridor." From the service elevator, a maintenance tech rolled a cart with the wrong gate. Elijah saw it first. "Gun!" The disguise ripped. Reynolds drew. Shots cracked. Agents took cover. He pitched a smoke canister, occluding lanes. Within the gray cloud, Reynolds drove toward Darius's door, intent sharpened. "Johnson!" he snarled. "It ends tonight. You two don't get to burn what we built." Elijah edged through smoke, using corners like chess. "No exits left, Reynolds. Surrender while there's still oxygen." Laughter bounced, unhinged and absolute. "I didn't come to run," Reynolds called. "I came to finish." The hatred in his voice confirmed Darius's warning. This was personal. Elijah assembled the psychology in motion. 3 years earlier, an FBI case he'd led had ejected officers for civil rights abuses. One was Reynolds' father, whose suicide followed. In Reynolds' catechism, Elijah had authored that loss. Diversity had cheated the deserving, and rage was righteousness. Near the room, Reynolds grabbed Ramirez, the one cop who'd refused to bend, jamming his pistol to her temple. "Back off, or she dies." Ramirez met Elijah's eyes, calm, steady, a signal and a prayer. Elijah measured angles, timing, breath. Direct assault risked Ramirez. He needed Reynolds to unmoor himself. "Your father would be ashamed," Elijah called, precise and cruel. "He made mistakes, but he never hid behind hostages. He didn't target kids." Rage detonated across Reynolds' face, exactly the opening Elijah engineered. "Don't say his name!" Reynolds roared. "You destroyed him. Your quotas, your politics." Ramirez dropped suddenly, twisting free. 2 clear lanes opened. 2 shots landed. One from an agent, shoulder. One from Elijah, leg. Reynolds collapsed, weapon skittering. Agents swarmed, binding him hard. The smoke thinned, revealing consequence. Elijah pushed past to Darius, alert, rattled, intact. "It's over," he said, careful with his embrace. Outside, Reynolds spewed promises of shadowed armies as they cinched extra restraints and posted constant watch. "You can't change a system," he howled. Elijah watched him roll away, then turned to the only system that mattered, his son's pulse. Normal operations resumed in waves, lights stabilized, alarms silenced, logs restarted. News of the raid's scope sluiced through the city. Sullivan's web exposed, dozens implicated, mountains of proof preserved. Elijah, finally seated beside Darius, felt the novel weight of forward motion, not victory, the engine of accountability beginning. 3 weeks later, Darius, still healing, waited in a wheelchair outside Superior Court, Elijah standing over a son made steel by fire. Preliminary hearings for Reynolds, Mercer, Sullivan, and 13 others drew cameras like moths. "Ready?" Elijah asked. Darius adjusted his tie with a wince. "I won't let anyone down." Inside was theater and gravity. The case had become a national touchstone. Accountability, race, power. Reporters packed benches beside activists and families of other complainants buried by Western Division. Assistant U.S. Attorney Caroline Washington greeted them. "We're prepared, but defense will swing hard at recordings and warrants." Elijah nodded. "Warrants are clean. Emergency documentation exceptions cover the watch." Washington agreed. "Judge Elaine Montgomery is tough and fair. She'll see through technical fog." To Darius, "You good to testify?" He straightened. "I've mapped everything I remember and cross-checked with audio. I'll be precise." Maturity shadowed youth. In court, Mercer sat apart, eyes haunted. Reynolds glared with undisguised hate, counsel whispering funeral advice. Sullivan wore bored professionalism pulled tight across cracks. Judge Montgomery entered, hammering order without theatrics. This room understands scrutiny. It will not override decorum. Evidence and testimony, not spectacle, govern proceedings. Washington opened measured and merciless, unlawful detention of Darius, patterned civil rights violations under Sullivan, planned evidence plants, county jail accident plots. Not one teen's nightmare, she closed, but a betrayal of public trust. Defense fractured. Sullivan cast as burdened leader unaware. Reynolds framed perceived threat response. Mercer minimized complicity. First witness. Mrs. Whitfield, the dog-walking neighbor whose phone had captured the stop. Nervous but firm, she testified. The kid was cooperative, hands on the wheel. They came out with guns. It was a traffic stop. Cross tried distance. You couldn't hear everything. No, she said, but bodies speak. He was scared. They were aggressive. Next, Calvin Brooks, the night guard, whose photos froze the warehouse beating. Enlarged prints pulled gasps. Darius cuffed, nightstick raised. I'd seen things, he said, but never with proof. This time, I made proof. Then Dr. Morris, clinical and contrite, walked the injuries and his clandestine ledger of mismatched arrest narratives. Ramirez followed, 3 years of rot diagrammed without heat, complaint destruction pipelines, intimidation playbooks, quota whispers sharpening into policies, cover-ups normalized by leadership egos and fear. Not a few bad actors, she said. An institution taught to look away. Words landed like wrenches thrown into gears. Then Mercer, deal in hand, said what culture had trained him to swallow. You learn neighborhoods to fear, faces to prejudge. If you question tactics, you're iced. I didn't swing that night, but I stood there. I carried the package. I was complicit. The room breathed differently. Darius insisted on standing for his oath, ribs protesting. Washington, tell us what happened. He traced the route, the stop, the warehouse, the county plan, unembellished, flanked by timestamps and the watch's audio. Cross-tried entitlement. Elite school, FBI father, privileged, yes? Darius answered steady. Fortunate, sure. That didn't stop a beating. The only privilege that mattered, he said, was Reynolds believing his badge made him judge, jury, executioner because of my skin. The line cut clean. Defense shifted tactics, fishing inconsistencies. Darius met each with spare precision. By the end, Reynolds vibrated with fury. Sullivan's mask whitened at the edges. After 5 days, Judge Montgomery ruled, ample probable cause for trial on all counts. Reynolds and Sullivan remanded without bail, risk to witnesses and community. Mercer granted conditional release pending cooperation. Outside, Elijah faced microphones briefly. This is a beginning. The Civil Rights Division will keep pushing wherever patterns surface. As they left, Darius's classmates pinged his phone, a Ridgecrest rally for accountability, drawn by his testimony. For the first time since the headlights bloomed, Darius's smile was unguarded. Maybe something good really grows from this, he said. Elijah glanced over, pride complicated and whole. It already has. 18 months later, Darius, now 18, stood at a national conference podium speaking to 500 officers about trust. The scars had faded. The purpose hadn't. That night didn't just fail me, he said. It failed justice, communities, and even officers who wanted to serve honorably. He told the room the verdicts weren't endings but on-ramps. Reynolds, 22 years for civil rights crimes, kidnapping, conspiracy. Sullivan, 18 for racketeering the culture. Mercer, probation and service. now teaching reform alongside those he once feared. Western Division was restructured under federal oversight, training, discipline, and community liaisons rebuilt from studs. Elijah, promoted to lead an expanded federal civil rights unit, watched quietly as his son linked lived pain to policy. Darius's Coleman, Initiative for Youth Justice, had sprung up in a gap year, teaching teens their rights, convening bridge rooms with reform-minded officers. The goal isn't adversaries, he said. It's boundaries honored. He kept his academics sharp, valedictorian at Ridgecrest, deferring college to scale impact. Law school gleamed down the road, not as escape, but as lever. After sessions, father and son stopped by County General with coffee for the night shift team that stabilized a future from the edge of ruin. "How's the co-responder program?" Darius asked Dr. Parker. "Your mental health pairing cut violent encounters 70%, she said. Fewer like you. Fewer injured officers, real wins." An email arrived later from Mercer, requesting a meeting. Elijah arched an eyebrow. What's he want? Probably program work, Darius said, and something else like repair. Mercer looked different at the community center, less armor, more bone. "I've been with your workshops 3 months, he began. It's changed me. He slid a thick folder forward, names, dates, small cruelties that scaffolded bigger ones. There are still people wearing badges who shouldn't. Elijah scanned, professional and grateful. This opens cases, he said. Mercer nodded. I can't undo that night. I can help prevent the next one. When he left, Darius exhaled. 2 years ago, I couldn't look at him without rage. Now, I see someone trying to pay debts. Elijah squeezed his shoulder. That's growth. A letter from Reynolds arrived from federal prison. Bile curdled into threats and self-martyrdom. Responsibility dodged like a sport. Darius felt pity, not fear. He wrote back, surprising himself. I won't carry hatred for you. It keeps harm alive. Your choices named you. I choose to build. He didn't expect an answer. Closure wasn't conditional. Work multiplied, testifying in capitals, advising on bills. Chapters of the initiative bloomed in a dozen cities, tuned to local textures, anchored by the same premise. Prevention beats punishment. Dignity beats domination. Proximity beats caricature. Elijah's unit paired enforcement with community intelligence. 1 year after the trial, they drove through Brentwood at noon. Sun gentle, streets ordinary. Looks plain now, Darius said. That's systems, Elijah replied. Invisible until someone refuses blindness. At a light, a cruiser pulled up. The officer recognized Darius and nodded. Small ceremony, no trumpet, real, if not universal. That night, Darius addressed Ridgecrest's forum, students, parents, officers, officials. Courtrooms answer harm after the fact, he said. Justice lives when harm is prevented. It lives when we recognize humanity across uniforms and zip codes, and when accountability grows people, not only punishes them. The auditorium leaned forward, listening. This room, he said, proves trauma can become transformation, injury, initiative, pain, purpose. He ended with a promise that detonated into applause, a scholarship fund for kids of incarcerated parents, including children of officers imprisoned for misconduct. Healing has to cross every line, or it isn't healing, he said. From the back, Elijah watched the standing ovation with a father's quiet thunder. Between that night and this applause were nightmares, therapy, anger, and choice. They weren't just survivors, they were builders. Later, a passing patrol car flicked blue in the mirror, once a trigger, now information, noted and released. So many don't have agents for parents, Darius said. So many places where justice feels foreign. Elijah nodded. True, but look what 18 months did. Imagine 18 years. At home, a teenager from the block approached, nervous. You're Darius from the initiative, right? Would you talk to my class? Darius glanced at Elijah, then back with a smile. I'd be honored. That's how it spreads, one room at a time. A creator's outro asked, what resonated for you? Can one case spark systemic change? Like, subscribe, share, algorithms braided to attention, attention to pressure, pressure to policy. Stories don't replace strategy, they ignite it. Summation landed like a stone in a river, sending rings outward. Justice needs accountability and transformation. When institutions fail, courage can force reckoning. The Colemans showed how documentation and lawful leverage turned pain into policy. Anger became engine, not anchor. Collaboration beat division. Bridges held weight where walls had cracked. The initiative's growth proved something stubborn. When people harmed become authors of reform, credibility opens doors reporting never reached. Real justice isn't only cages for villains, it's scaffolding that keeps harm from happening. Comment your moments. If accountability matters for trust, say so and share. Courage scales when it's witnessed. Systemic change begins in singular choices. Press record, refuse the easy lie, protect the witness, file the warrant, teach the class, fund the bridge. Thanks for walking the distance from trauma to purpose. May your anger learn to build. May your hope insist on receipts. Justice needs accountability and transformation in tandem. When institutions break, brave people can force repairs. Elijah and Darius showed how records and lawful leverage convert pain into policy. Anger became engine, not anchor. Collaboration beat division. Bridges carried weight where cracked walls once stood. The initiative's growth proved a stubborn truth. When harmed people become authors of reform, credibility opens doors statistics never could. Real justice isn't only cages for villains, it's scaffolding that stops harm beforehand. Share what resonated. If accountability builds trust, say it and share. Courage scales when witnessed, documented, repeated. Systemic change begins with singular choices. Press record, refuse a comforting lie, safeguard a witness, draft a warrant, teach a classroom, fund the bridge. Thank you for traveling from trauma to purpose. Let anger learn to build. Let hope insist on receipts. The work continues, tenacious, measurable, human. In the weeks after the hearings, the Colemans learned a rhythm. Court dates, community rooms, strategy calls, sleep in thin slices. Darius journaled details, anchoring memory to time. Elijah filed after-action memos like prayers, precise, unadorned, relentless, each document a plank across the old chasm. Reporters wanted spectacle. Elijah offered process. Names follow evidence, he'd say. Evidence follows chain of custody. Darius learned to bridge outrage and instruction, turning fury into curriculum. Their inbox filled with invitations and threats, two languages of consequence. They answered the first with care, the second with silence and security. Ramirez kept pushing inside LAPD, her notes expanding into maps of practice, pressure, and pretext. Some colleagues shifted subtly. Less laughter at the wrong jokes, more signatures on the right forms. Culture didn't melt. It moved, increment by increment, proof that glaciers can pivot when forced by stubborn suns. Maya and Williams hardened safeguards, mirrored servers, redundant archives, tamper flags that screamed whenever hands wandered. Lessons from Western Division became templates, playbooks shipped to other field offices. Elijah insisted every tool be teachable, not mystical. Accountability must be portable if it hopes to survive leadership churn and headlines. Darius's ribs knitted, sleep steadied. Therapy untangled nights. On a walk, he caught himself breathing without vigilance. He honored the moment, then kept walking. Healing didn't feel like forgetting. It felt like remembering without drowning. He wrote that line down, later turning it into a slide for students. Meanwhile, defense teams sharpened knives, motions to suppress, narrative rebrands, appeals to fear poorly guised as procedure. Washington's filings punched back with receipts, audio, photos, logs, transcripts. Judge Montgomery's rulings read like clean cuts, refusing theater. The docket marched. Discovery deepened. Legends shrank under fluorescent cross-examination. At Ridgecrest, Darius co-led forums with officers willing to listen. Lines formed afterward, kids with questions, officers with confessions. A sophomore said, "My brother's scared of traffic stops." A sergeant replied, "Mine too." The room inhaled the strange relief of mutual truth. Complexity didn't disappear, it finally had volume. The initiative published pocket guides, rights, scripts, de-escalation steps, officer obligations, complaint processes. They moved like contraband in the best way, passed hand to hand, annotated, creased. Elijah smiled at the practical beauty of it, a folded rectangle that might shave tragedy down to mere inconvenience. At DOJ briefings, Elijah argued for pattern and practice resources beyond episodic outrage. "Don't just surge," he urged. "Stay." Charts showed declines where oversight persisted, rebounds where attention fled. Boredom, he warned, was corruption's oxygen. The room nodded, the kind of nod that promised budgets rather than applause. Darius visited Calvin Brooks at the warehouse booth. They stood where headlights once carved fear. "You saved me," Darius said. Calvin shook his head. "You saved a lot more by telling it." They exchanged numbers. Mutual guardianship doesn't always look like sirens. Sometimes it's two men keeping receipts together. Dr. Morris testified again for a grand jury, hands steady now. He'd stopped bargaining with shame. He traded it for service. "Neutrality helped nobody," he told a resident later. He started tutoring new clinicians on documentation courage, how the right sentence can outlive a threat and rescue tomorrow. Social feeds continued their churn, but Darius curated deliberately. Fewer doom spirals, more actionable links. "Click is cheap," he joked on stage. "Commitment costs." The line traveled, tidy and true. He measured success not in views, but in policies revised, trainings added, cases rescued from oblivion's filing cabinet. Elijah mentored younger agents, remembering his first field office, a borrowed desk, an old case, ambition outpacing roadmap. "You'll be tempted by shortcuts," he told them. "We bury cases with sloppiness the way corrupt units bury them with malice. Do the paperwork like it's a life raft. Sometimes it is." A neighborhood council invited both Colemans to a listening night. There were tears, heat, awkward silences. An older man said, "I stopped calling 911 years ago." A captain replied, "That's on us." No miracle followed, just a committee, a pilot program, and contact information people actually used. On an anniversary morning, Darius drove the same boulevard under soft sun. He narrated calmly for an empty passenger seat. Signal. Hands. Breath. Ritual, not fear. At the light, he laughed, a quiet, earned sound. He texted Elijah. "I'm okay in the same place." Elijah replied, "That's revolution." The trial dates landed. Community groups organized court prep, rides, childcare, translation. Washington's team ran witness boot camps, posture, pauses, clarity. "We don't embellish," she repeated. "We illuminate." In hallways, victims compared notes with care usually reserved for recipes. ingredients of survival shared openly, without shame. Opening day, the courthouse felt like a compressed city. Press, clergy, students, uniforms, skeptics. Elijah avoided cameras, steadying witnesses with eye contact and coffee. Darius rolled in on time. Tie clean, scars quieter. "You ready?" Elijah whispered. "Ready enough," Darius answered, a phrase they'd invented for imperfect courage. Washington's narrative unfurled: system, pattern, conspiracy, consequence. Defense tried weather metaphors, storms of danger, split-second lightning, heroes under siege. Evidence refused poetry. It clanged: timestamps, metadata, transcripts, bruises, policy manuals, until the metaphor ran out of oxygen. Jurors leaned forward, not hungry for drama, but for a map out. Witnesses traced roads: Whitfield's sidewalk truth, Calvin's photos, Morris's ledger, Ramirez's architecture, Mercer's confession without costume. Darius didn't play martyr. He played historian, naming rooms, sounds, orders, pauses. The watch audio punctuated like a metronome. The human shield moment silenced even the loudest pens scratching. Cross-examination swung and missed, suggestions of teenage attitude, insinuations of federal overreach. "Isn't your father influential?" a lawyer sneered. "He's my father," Darius answered. "He taught me to obey lawful commands and to record unlawful ones." The gallery didn't clap. They inhaled. Sound of something old losing warranty. Closing arguments rendered choices plain: oaths as shields or weapons, institutions as refugees or predators, badges as guardians or costumes. The jury disappeared. The city held its breath like a neighborhood prank gone too far. Elijah squeezed Darius's shoulder, gentle. "Whatever happens, we keep building," he said. Darius nodded. Verdicts arrived: guilty across the charged counts for Reynolds and Sullivan, lesser but real consequences for Mercer under cooperation. Sentencing dates set. Remand immediate. In the hall, Elijah spoke briefly. "Accountability is maintenance, not revenge." Reporters blinked, expecting spikes, not screws tightening slowly, properly, until wobble ceased. Reform moved unevenly. Some precincts embraced training like an antidote. Others treated oversight like a rash. The initiative kept lines open, refusing purity tests that burned bridges. "We partner where possible, pressure where necessary," Darius said. "We won't confuse catharsis with change." It became a banner, then a habit. Grants funded co-responder pilots, traffic stop redesigns, early warning analytics for misconduct spikes. Elijah hammered for audits that measured dignity, not only response times. New recruits learned scripts that preserved rights and respect. Old officers grumbled until data calmed them. Fewer complaints, fewer injuries, fewer funerals, better sleep. On stage somewhere else, a host recapped with urgency. "If this story hit you, act. Volunteer, testify, vote, serve. Don't outsource your conscience to comments." The feed cut to a resource list: hotlines, clinics, training dates. Darius approved the slide deck. Tools, not vibes. Bridges, not bonfires. Always receipts. A mother approached Darius after a workshop, clutching a photo. "He's gone," she said. "No cameras then." Darius listened, really listened, wrote her son's name on a card, handed it to Elijah's unit liaison. "We'll review what can be reopened." Hope didn't resurrect, but it stiffened the spine. Night walks grew ordinary again. Darius timed his breath to crosswalks. It wasn't denial, just a life widened beyond fear's perimeter. He noticed jacaranda blossoms like purple confetti on cracked sidewalks and thought, streets deserve celebrations too. He filed the line for a speech, then kept it for himself. Elijah took fewer field calls, more strategy ones. He missed the old adrenaline, but not the old helplessness. He found a different rush in assembling teams that outlived any single hero. Institutions make villains, he told a recruit. They can also make guardians. Decide which blueprints you follow. At a small ceremony, Ramirez received an internal commendation that didn't feel performative. She dedicated it to her partner. Name said aloud, story reclaimed. The room stood. Some clapped, some stared at their shoes and thought about paperwork they'd signed. Culture shifts on nights like that. Subtly, properly, permanently. Letters poured in, some hateful, some haltingly grateful. A teenager wrote, "Your pocket card stopped me from panicking." A captain wrote, "We copied your de-escalation one-sheet." Darius pinned both on a corkboard above his desk. Reminders that change speaks many dialects, and progress sometimes whispers before it shouts. The initiative hired staff from neighborhoods too often policed and too rarely heeded: translators, case navigators, trainers, trauma counselors. Payroll days felt like policy wins. "Justice pays rent," Darius joked, cutting checks. Elijah grinned. "Remember when this was a spreadsheet and a hope?" They high-fived like conspirators, purpose-drunk. On the road, Darius learned airport routines, microphone quirks, and the emotional economy of telling trauma without letting it devour you. He kept boundaries sacred. No photos with bruises, no reenactments, no pity scripts. "We're here to build," he'd say, "not to be consumed." Rooms respected the terms. Elijah guest lectured at an academy, holding up a badge and a pocket constitution. "This means nothing without this," he said. "If you can't carry both lightly, don't carry either." A recruit raised a hand. "Sir, what about fear?" Elijah nodded. "Train for it. Never outsource it to cruelty." They returned to County General with donuts again. Dr. Parker laughed. "You're ruining our diet and my cynicism." She showed updated dashboards. Violent restraints down, voluntary compliance up. "You can measure mercy," she said, tapping bars. Darius whispered, "Put that on a billboard." Elijah filed it under future slogans. A podcast invited Darius to debate a pundit trafficking in bad faith hypotheticals. He declined publicly, offering instead a ride-along with a co-responder team and a community forum. "Proximity beats performance," he tweeted. The show moved on. The forum filled anyway. He spent the evening answering real questions. In quieter hours, he practiced piano again, fingers relearning grace beyond speeches. Music made a different argument for dignity, one that didn't require citations. Elijah listened from the hall, thinking about years lost to scanning mirrors, then let himself think about years gained to melodies unafraid of sirens. The day before a State House testimony, a storm knocked power out. Darius wrote by flashlight, laughing at the callback. "We've done smoke," he told Elijah. "We can handle candles." He finished with a line he knew by heart. "Prevention gleams brightest where someone insists on seeing early and often." Testimony day felt familiar. Oath, facts, friction. A lawmaker asked, "Isn't this anti-police?" Darius answered, "It's pro-people, including police. We're allergic to abuse, not accountability." The room shifted. You could feel minds toggling from posture to policy. The bill advanced with amendments Elijah could live with gladly. Afterward, a patrol lieutenant shook Darius's hand. "My kid carries your card," he said. "So do I." No cameras caught it. No thread went viral. Not all turning points announce themselves. Some slip into pockets and wait, patient for danger to arrive, then change how someone breathes. The Colemans started sleeping again, broken, then better. Dreams changed from chase scenes to blueprints. Therapy recommended rituals. They invented one. List 3 solid things before bed. person, process, principle. Darius's favorites: Calvin, chain of custody, dignity. Elijah's: Ramirez, redundant archives, patience. Small liturgy for a secular Reformed church. Journalists eventually chased new fires. That was fine. Firefighters don't crave cameras. They crave hydrants. Elijah's unit secured more of those: policy hydrants, budget hydrants, training hydrants. Darius's team kept handing out maps to them, annotated for teenagers and tired parents alike. Fewer panics, more pathways. Anniversaries arrived like weather fronts, anticipated and survivable. They ate pie, not cake, an inside joke about excellent circles. "We live in loops," Darius said. "Let's make them virtuous." Elijah toasted with iced coffee. "To fewer funerals." They clinked plastic lids, reverent as communion and just as binding. A precinct invited Darius to pin graduation badges. He accepted with conditions: training audits, community seats, transparent discipline. They agreed. In a gym smelling of varnish and futures, he congratulated rookies. Carry both, courage and consent. The applause sounded hopeful, not loud, a better metric than decibels. A civil suit settled. Money for programs, apologies on letterhead, no gag clauses. Darius insisted funds route to clinics and counsel, not abstractions. Families started using services whose phone numbers once gathered dust. Accountability underwrote infrastructure. "Receipts," Elijah whispered, filing yet another PDF. Paperwork at last, rescuing more than reputations. One evening, Darius walked past the exact patch of curb where taillights first flared behind him. He stopped, placed a hand on a street tree, and thanked it for surviving. "We both did," he said. A neighbor waved. Ordinary returned, shy but real, like a stray deciding home. A freshman messaged the initiative. "Your deck stopped my friend from arguing. He narrated instead. The stop ended fast." Darius replied with a thumbs up and a link to local volunteers. Wins weren't cinematic. They were mercifully boring. Boring, he'd learned, was the opposite of tragedy, not heroism. A think tank invited Elijah to keynote. He sent Maya. "Credit engineers, not just architects," he told the organizers. She crushed it, describing checksum audacity and the art of catching lies in their metadata. Afterwards, recruits lined up, asking how to make integrity louder than tradition. The initiative launched the scholarship Darius promised: priority for kids of incarcerated parents, including those whose officers fell to rightful sentences. "Cycles end where bridges start," he said at the kickoff. Applications overflowed. Reviewers cried at essays without performative trauma, just goals, chores, siblings, grit. Funds moved, futures widened. Elijah visited Reynolds exactly once at a secure facility, not for closure but calibration. He left with nothing new, just a renewed commitment to build systems indifferent to any single man's hatred. On the drive back, he rolled down the window and let dry wind scrub his lungs. A citywide dashboard launched: complaints, use of force, commendations, demographics, public by default. The site loaded fast even on old phones. Darius bookmarked it like weather. "Transparency is a forecast," he told a class. "You plan your day differently when storms announce themselves honestly." They nodded, young and already meteorologists. On stage one night, Darius closed with gratitude for stubborn witnesses, for good cops, for precise paperwork, for therapists, for donuts, for whoever invented body cameras and batteries that finally last. Laughter softened the room. "Mercy to machines, too," he added. "They carry us when our hands shake." The final Q&A wasn't about policy, but friendship. "How do you keep from hating?" a kid asked. Darius answered slowly. "By building something bigger than what hurt me, and inviting people, even former enemies, to help." He looked at Elijah. Also, sleep and snacks. The room exhaled together. Later, walking to the car under gentle streetlights, they didn't scan shadows like ghosts. They talked set lists and calendars, hummed a bar from an old recital. Ordinary, finally, felt earned. "Ready for tomorrow?" Elijah asked. Darius nodded. "Ready enough." They drove home, engine quiet, hopes loud, work waiting, alive. Lesson: documentation saves lives. If you've lived through the long arc of American change, you know courage needs receipts. Darius survived because he remembered training, pressed record, and triggered a lawful response his father's team could verify. Timestamps, chain of custody, witnesses. It wasn't brute force. It was disciplined truth. For those of us 65 and up, the takeaway is steady and simple. When harm strikes, document first, breathe, and let the paper trail carry justice forward. Friends, what do you think? Can careful documentation and calm, lawful steps really turn a bad stop into accountability? Or does change require something bigger? Tell me your experiences. What would you record first, and who would you call? Drop your thoughts below. Hit like if this helped, comment to guide others, and subscribe to my YouTube channel for clear, practical strategies that protect rights and rebuild trust, one verified receipt at a time.